Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. Apple is losing over $1 billion a year on its Apple TV streaming service. Now, in a recent report, it was stated that Apple has been spent over $5 billion a year on its Apple TV streaming service since 2019. However, in the last year, they cut that budget by about $500 million. Now, Apple TV's losses as related to streaming are just another part of the trend of these streaming services struggling to build an audience in an already oversaturated entertainment marketplace. Now, when it came down to streaming, Hollywood thought streaming was going to be the next big thing when we were having the the pandemic, and thought audiences would go and look to subscribe to these streaming services the way they do to cable TV. And many of those people in Hollywood, in the entertainment industry, thought streaming was going to be a big profit for them and thought they were going to be able to make big money on streaming the same way they used to make money at the box office. Unfortunately, what's happened over the last 5 years as related to streaming is that the entire market basically wound up becoming oversaturated, and as it became oversaturated with streaming services, this basically diluted a lot of the content and gave people less incentive to watch entertainment in general. Now, many of the streaming services that came out, like Apple TV, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, and many of these platforms, thought they were going to become as profitable as Netflix. However, they weren't looking at the business model that Netflix had that led to it becoming profitable. Now, what made Netflix extremely profitable was that Netflix was following a business model that many syndicators use, in that they were going out here and paying for digital content rights to many of the movie studios. And as they were paying many of these studios for the rights to stream their TV shows and movies and other forms of programming, they were basically reaping a profit from two revenue streams. One, they were going out here reaping a revenue stream from the customers out here who were paying for a Netflix subscription, and they were also reaping profits because they would take the money that they would get from the subscriptions and create and produce their own original content. So they already had revenue streams as related to their business, and with those revenue streams, they were able to make those huge profits over at Netflix. Not to mention, they had exclusivity as related to those contracts, and they also had a large following as related to their brand, providing quality content. And this is the thing that flew over the heads of many of the Hollywood executives and tech nerds in Silicon Valley, who really don't understand the business of entertainment. No, since these individuals didn't understand the business of entertainment, they thought they could go out here and create their own streaming services and make more money because they would go out here and have their own content. But unfortunately, they didn't understand that the marketplace for entertainment was already saturated, and already saturated due to business decisions that their predecessors made with the Telecom Act of 1996, because the Telecom Act of 1996, what it did was make it where an individual could own more than one TV station, radio station, magazine, or newspaper, and this led to the consolidation of media that basically wound up eliminating competition in the entertainment industry. And as competition got eliminated in the entertainment industry, this led to many production companies that would make products not being able to compete, and without them being able to compete, we could not get much fresh content out there, because usually it was the smaller prodcos with the smaller budgets that would go out here and make a lot of the unique content that would gain cult followings. It usually, these guys would again make this content on a small budget and be able to distribute it to theaters and eke out a profit or do direct to video. Unfortunately, due to policies that were lobbied for by Hollywood, such as the Telecom Act of 1996 and the decision to make TV go digital in 2009, what happened was many of those revenue streams were basically dried up. And as they dried up, this basically led to people having to take their products to streaming and have agreements with Netflix, which was the only game in town that would give you enough views to profit from your venture. Because yes, there were other streaming services out there like Crackle and many other smaller streaming services, but they just did not have the audience or following that Netflix had that would ensure you would get enough people to watch this program so that you could eke out a profit. Because what many people didn't understand is that yes, streaming does get a lot of eyes, but it doesn't really generate a lot of revenue. That's what Apple is finding out about Apple TV. Yes, Apple TV does go out here and it gets a lot of people to be out here, but again, it's not enough to generate revenue to pull a profit. It's just not enough to pull a profit because an Apple TV subscription is much cheaper than a movie ticket, and usually when it comes down to content, you're basically getting more entertainment value per dollar with a streaming service. But the whole thing is most people don't have much incentive to go to a streaming service unless there's a show that they want to see. And usually when it comes down to these streaming services, they're not really good at making content, because many of the people who are running streaming services like Apple TV, they're mostly tech nerds and bean counters from Hollywood who are more focused on profits than people and don't know how to target an audience with content that is appealing to them. And since they don't know how to target an audience with product that is appealing to them, what they do is, yes, you'll get a lot of critically acclaimed art house shows, but none of that stuff really gets a national phenomenon that basically gets people excited. No, we haven't seen many of these streaming services go out here and build that buzz that Netflix's Luke Cage did when it crashed its own servers. That was the last time we saw a Netflix show, a streaming show, again, do exceptionally well. And in the days of this saturated market with all these streaming services, again, the content is so diluted and it's basically, again, watered down to the point where it never answers that critical question a screenwriter like myself has to answer before I put fingers to the keyboard. And that question is, why should we care? And it's very hard to care about anything on streaming because much of the new content is basically, as I see it, very bland, very generic, and doesn't really get you excited. And most of the time when I'm on streaming, what I'm looking for mostly are old movies, like the old 80s movies on Tubi. And if I can get that content for free, I don't really have much incentive to go out here and buy a subscription to an Apple TV, to a Netflix, to a Disney Plus, or a Paramount Plus, or any of these other platforms. No, a lot of the content that I really like to watch is basically on Tubi for free, and that's a thing that basically just throws a monkey wrench in the entire business model that Hollywood wants to go out here and push as related to these streaming services, because these streaming services, as I see it, from my years of studying the entertainment industry, are encroaching on the business of Hollywood, because Hollywood's main profits come from the box office, from the new features that they make, and the other streams of revenue, such as home video, which they eliminated with looking to get rid of physical media, syndication, and other markets. These are secondary and third markets and fourth markets. these are markets that basically where they look to make revenue after a film has made all its money back from production, or a TV show has made all its money back from advertising in commercials. I mean, they're looking to try to make this a primary revenue stream when in actuality it's a fifth or sixth revenue stream for older content. And this is one of the things that is undermining Hollywood's overall business model, is them looking to try to make streaming be their main business, but that business is undermining their business because what it's doing right now is encroaching on all of their businesses. And this has been a big problem for Hollywood ever since they allowed, again, TV to go digital in 2009 and created all of these secondary and other channels, because you got all these secondary channels again encroaching on your main channels of your TV networks. And with streaming, what you've got are the streaming basically encroaching on your revenue for your box office, because again, people have less incentive to go out here and watch your movies at the theater and pay $20 for a ticket when they can go out here and wait for that offer to come up and be able to watch that movie on streaming either for $14.99 or be able to even watch it for even less, be able to watch it for about $3-4 if you get a $2.99 offer. I mean, people can go out here and watch the movies that they want without ever having to spend $15-20 at the movie. I mean, people can avoid spending that money on a movie ticket and go to watch this movie on streaming. Like, for example, in the case of Transformers 1, I didn't have to go to the theater because Paramount Plus offered a deal where I could pay just $2.99 for watch the movie and basically watch it on streaming on my laptop for just $3. And in addition to that, I could go out here and watch other content. So I'm getting more entertainment value per dollar if I wait for streaming, and I can watch this program in my home on my laptop, or like some people do on their big screen TV, without ever having to deal with the stress of dealing with individuals at the theater, either talking loud or on their cell phones, or even deal with the stress of trying to commute to the theater. And basically, again, with this, Hollywood basically shot itself in the foot as related to its own revenue and making money, because if people sit there and wait for this movie, again, you're not able to go out here and be able to profit from getting that box office on opening weekend. You're not able to profit and make that money on opening weekend for your film. No, what happens is most people these days, because they're already pinched by inflation and struggling to make ends meet because they don't know if they're going to have a job today or tomorrow, they're basically holding on to their money and letting a lot of these waiting for these films, and that's not good for Hollywood's business, which has been struggling ever since the pandemic. I mean, Hollywood's business has been struggling, and sadly, their investment in streaming, which they thought was going to pay off, because Hollywood sat there, they thought they were gonna be able to get people to stay home and continue watching content. This is why them and the venture capitalists were investing so much money into streaming. They were investing so much money into streaming, thinking it was going to be the next big thing, but it may be the thing that Hollywood must be forced to sacrifice if they hope to return to profitability. Now, in a previous video, I talked about Hollywood might have to sacrifice streaming in order to get back to profitability, because in order for people to see a value in going to the theater so you could maximize your profits, you might have to go out and again sacrifice these streaming services and put them out of business, because these streaming services in and of themselves basically have diluted and flooded the entire marketplace with so much content and so many opportunities at content that people have no incentive to go out to the theater, and you have no opportunity to maximize your profits, because streaming in and of itself, again, it makes it where this new generation has more reason to stay home. And again, if they're staying home, they're not going out to the malls, they're not going to the theaters, and they're not going shopping later on. And that, again, hurts the bottom line of movies like Transformers 1, which needed people to go out of the theaters at the mall to go to the toy stores and buy the Transformers toys. Again, hurts their business all around. But many of these guys in Silicon Valley and these bean counter executives can't see the big picture of entertainment. No, they can't see the big picture of entertainment and the damage that they've done to this business because they don't understand this business. They don't understand that when it comes down to entertainment, you need to make your money up front. This is what any seasoned Hollywood executive will tell you, that you got to make your money up front. And these streaming services are where you're making your money on the back. Yeah, you might get some critically acclaimed shows on places like Apple TV, like Ted Lasso, that will win some Emmys, but that's not putting money in your pocket, because with a lot of these streaming services, people will sub for a minute and then quit that service the next week because they finished watching what they wanted, and that's not what you want in your business. No, you want to have a stable revenue stream. You want to have a stable revenue stream, and that's not what Apple is getting with this whole Apple TV streaming service. They're taking a loss on it, because they've got this covert contract where they're believing that if they keep this streaming service going, eventually it will be a loss leader that gets people to buy Apple MacBooks, and also be a loss leader that will, again, get people to possibly, again, check out the content and see what their computers can do. But that's, again, not really a good business strategy, because, again, you're losing money, and all it takes is one bad design MacBook Pro, and this whole loss leader deal turns into a bad deal, and that's a big problem. But these streaming services in and of themselves are turning into a major liability for most of these studios. Most of these streaming services are choking out their business. It's choking out their business because when it comes down to movies, you make your money at the theater. When it comes to TV shows, you make your money at on television, because that's how you sell the advertisers and get the ad revenue from those shows. And when it comes to streaming, again, people come there, and again, unless it's like Tubi, where you've got the advertising and the revenue from advertising to basically fund the service, it's not really going to make much money outside of that, because Tubi, again, is a smart streaming service, very smart in that, yeah, you're getting to see complete and uncut movies. That's one of the things I love about Tubi, is getting to see those complete uncut movies from 30, 40, 50, even 100 years ago, because they've even got the silent films up there. And as they've got those silent films and other class films, I can watch those films and basically enjoy those films for free. I might have to sit through a commercial like a TV channel, but I get to see a complete uncut film, and that's an advantage that I get, because if I have to watch that on television, I have to watch this butchered version of this film that has been cut down, but on Tubi, it's completely uncut. And that's, again, an advantage that we have with Tubi. And Netflix basically has the market. I mean, as I see it, if you're a smart Hollywood executive, you let Netflix go out here and pay you for your content, because that's going to give them subscribers. But the whole thing is that you're getting revenue coming in, and you're not pouring revenue into a streaming service like a Disney Plus, which I basically shake my head about Disney Plus, because Disney Plus could have been, again, a good venture had they put fresh, original content for children on there, instead of focusing so heavily on Star Wars and Marvel with their tunnel vision. No, I would have been focused on creating the stories for the next generation of kids, like I did with my sitcom All About Nikki. I was focused mostly, again, on younger kids and teaching them about etiquette and culture and how to behave. And again, this is the type of content that Disney Plus needs to have on their platform, because you can't go just for the Marvel and Star Wars fans. You've got to start cultivating new audiences, and part of cultivating new audiences is creating shows that appeal to, again, younger viewers. And that's where many of the streaming services fumbled the football. They focused on a lot of cop shows, a lot of dramas like on Paramount Plus that are just bland, or Star Trek shows, and again, nothing that appeals to the younger viewer who has the technology in their hand, and nothing there like a new animated series or a new children's sitcom similar to Zack and Cody, and many of those sitcoms that were on places like TNBC and Nickelodeon. I mean, nothing to appeal to the younger viewer, and it shows me again that they really don't understand how the entertainment business works, because again, when it comes to nerds, they know technology, but they don't understand people, they don't understand demographics, they don't understand how to build and cultivate an audience. No, when it comes down to many of the nerds in Silicon Valley, yeah, they know how to, again, have the money to spend on a streaming service, but they don't know how to create content for that service. And in the age of the internet, content is king. Content is what drives a platform. Content is what drives the audience to a platform. And if you don't have good content, you're not going to get the views, you're not going to get the clicks, and definitely not going to get the subscribers to pay for the service, because you've got to give them something they want to pay for. And in order to give people something they want to pay for, you've got to answer that critical question I always have to answer before I put fingers to the keyboard, and that is, why should we care? And it's hard to care about streaming services because most of the content on them basically is either reruns from another generation, or it's basically, again, art house crap that basically appeals to artsy type people, but it doesn't appeal to the average everyday working man and woman. And that's the audience you need in order to pull profits. That's the audience you really need to start, again, making content for. And again, the whole schedule for a lot of this content is really not good. I mean, 8 episodes, 10 episodes. I mean, people can get a better deal at a network where they can get 22 episodes or 13 episodes for a cable show. I mean, you don't get enough time to be able to tell a full story on many of these streaming services. Many of the production values are just undercut. And on those few good shows like Wednesday or Luke Cage, it's basically, it's good because the producer has a vision. But the whole problem with streaming is that they don't have a consistent pattern as related to creating content. And since they haven't developed a consistent pattern for creating content, this is why it's losing money. And again, basically, as I see it, it's just time for Hollywood to sacrifice streaming in order to save their box office, because box office is where you make your money, and you want to get people out of the mindset of waiting for streaming. No, what you want to do is get them in the mindset of ways that are going to get them to spend money at the theater or on home video, because streaming in and of itself is costing you money. I mean, people, when they go into the movie theater, they're spending $20 on a movie ticket. That's one time that they're spending. They're spending another $20 to $25 on a DVD or a Blu-ray to watch that movie once again. So you're getting $40 over here. But with streaming, basically, you've got yourself in a place where you're at the most going to make $14.99, which is, again, less than your movie ticket in some areas. And in some cases, if you're offering a deal for $2.99, you're basically in a point where you've basically given away this movie. You've given away this movie for $3 when you could have made $40 on this movie. And this is the math that flies over the heads of many of the nerds in Silicon Valley, caught up in their feelings about technology, and so caught up in their feelings about technology, they can't see how they're putting themselves out of business with every one of these streaming services. And that's, again, why I say that you gotta sacrifice streaming if you want to save Hollywood's already struggling business. Now, if you want to check out some of my screenplay books that I wrote, You can find All About Marilyn and All About Nikki the Fabulous first season on Amazon.com in paperback. And All About Marilyn was a film that I wrote about the struggles of black actresses in Hollywood, and its companion, All About Nikki's Fabulous first season, was the show that Marilyn starred in. And both of those were to show my skills as a screenwriter and a television writer and a showrunner overall. And you can check out how I would write a TV show by checking out those two books. And I also have a lot of great fantasy fiction on the SJS Direct imprint in the SJS Direct universe, and you can check out all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find all of those books at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you'd like to see me make more videos taking Hollywood to the barbecue, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers, Esteem Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Season of the Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.